The wind howled across the empty plains of the alien planet, carrying dust and silence. Jace sat alone in his small shelter, sipping a warm drink made from local roots. It had been 5 days since he last saw another living soul. He liked it that way. No noise, no orders, no one to disappoint him. After 10 years in the human military, he had come here to escape war, pain, and people. But then, just after sunset, there was a knock. Not a loud one, just a soft, shaky knock. Like someone was scared even to ask for help. Jace froze. Nobody came to his shelter. Nobody should be here. He stood, slowly walked to the door, and opened it, just a crack. What he saw made him blink twice. An alien woman stood outside, her arms wrapped around 2 small children. Her skin was pale blue and marked with dust and bruises. Her dark hair hung loose, tangled. The children, both small, were shivering, thin, dirty, and barefoot. The woman looked up at him with wide, tired eyes. "Please," she whispered, "don't shut the door." Jace opened the door, fully confused. "Who are you?" he asked. "What are you doing out here?" "My name is Solari," she said. Her voice trembled. "These are my children. We have nowhere else to go." Jace looked around. The sun had vanished, and the night winds were picking up. "Where's your home?" "Gone," she said. "Destroyed. Raiders took everything. No one would take us in. Not my own kind. Not anyone." Jace didn't speak. He looked at the children. One was coughing quietly. The other clung to her leg like a scared animal. Solari lowered her head. "If you don't help us," she said, "my children won't survive the night. I don't care about myself, but please, let them live." Jace's heart beat harder. He had seen death. He had seen children cry for help during the war. And now, here it was again, right on his doorstep. He sighed and stepped aside. "Come in," he said. Solari's eyes widened with surprise and then with hope. She nodded and guided the children inside. They stepped into the warm light, looking around like they had never seen safety before. Jace gave them blankets and something warm to drink. He sat near the door, watching them closely. "You said raiders?" he asked. "Salar," I nodded, holding one child close to her chest. "We lived in a farming colony near the canyon. Last week, they came in the night. They burned homes, took people. My husband tried to fight. They killed him. I ran with the children. We walked for 2 days before we found this path." Jace looked down at her worn shoes. "You walked through the wild zone? With kids?" She nodded again. "I had no choice. I went to another outpost. They shut the gates. Sighed I was used. Goods, a widow with mouths to feed. No one wants that." There was silence for a moment. Only the sound of the fire and the soft breathing of the children filled the room. Then Solari said something that made Jace's chest tighten. "I'll be your wife if you take us in," she said. "I'll cook, clean, help with your work. Just let my children live." Jace stared at her. She wasn't begging for herself. She was offering herself, like a deal. Like she was worthless unless she gave something in return. "I didn't bring you in for that," he said finally. "I'm not looking for a wife." Solari looked down. "I know. But I am looking for someone who will not leave me and my children to die." Her voice broke on the last word. Jace looked at the 2 small faces, now resting near his fire. The boy had already fallen asleep. The girl watched him with large eyes full of fear and hunger. He had once promised himself he'd never get involved again, but could he really send them back out into the cold? "No, I don't know about being a husband or a father," he said, "but you can stay here, for now, until we figure something out." Tears formed in Solari's eyes. She didn't cry loud. She just nodded and whispered, "Thank you." That night, Jace couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about the knock, about her words, and about what kind of world this was. where a mother had to beg at a stranger's door, not for food, but for a chance to keep her children alive. Something had changed. He didn't know it yet. But the moment he opened that door, his quiet life was over. The smell of warm food drifted through the shelter. Solari stood by the small stove, her hands shaking slightly as she stirred the stew. It was the first time she had cooked in days, maybe longer. Her stomach growled, but she ignored it. The children needed to eat first. Behind her, Jay sat quietly at the table, watching. He wasn't sure what was stranger, having someone else in his home after so long, or the way the children slept so peacefully now, curled under soft blankets. Like they had finally found a place where monsters couldn't reach. "You don't have to cook," he said. Solari didn't turn around. "I want to. It keeps my hands busy and my heart quiet." Jace looked at her carefully. There was something broken in her voice. Not weakness, just pain that had been pushed down so deep it had turned silent. "After dinner," Solari told her. Story. Not all at once, just pieces, slow and careful. Like she was afraid the truth might shatter if she said it too loud. "My colony was small," she said. "We farmed the red soil near the canyons. Life was simple, quiet." She smiled. For a moment, it vanished quickly, then the raid started. First, it was livestock, then tools, then people. One night, "They came for my husband." Jace said nothing. "He let her talk. He fought to protect us," she said. "He wasn't a soldier. He just had courage, but courage doesn't stop blasters." Her voice dropped low. "I buried him myself. Behind our burned home. Then I took the children and ran." Jace clenched his jaw. He had seen raiders before. They didn't care who you were. Widow, child, old man, it made no difference. If you couldn't fight or serve them, you were nothing. Solari's hands tightened. "I begged my own people to help. Neighbors, elders, even my husband's brother. They all shut their doors, said I had bad luck, said I'd bring trouble." Her eyes filled with tears. "They told me to leave, to go die quietly, and take my children with me." Silence filled the room. Then Solari looked up directly at Jace. "Are you going to tell me to leave too?" Jace looked at her, really looked. She was thin, her bones pressed against her skin. Her clothes were torn and patched, but her eyes were still alive, fierce even now. "No," he said softly. "I won't." Solari breathed out like she'd been holding her breath for hours. "Thank you," she whispered. "That's all I needed to hear." The children were already asleep again, their little bodies curled next to each other. Jace stepped outside for a moment. The stars above were bright and silent. The cold air bit at his skin, but his thoughts were louder than the wind. He didn't plan for this. He didn't ask for a family. But now, they were here, and somewhere inside, something long forgotten was waking up. Not just duty, not just pity, something else. Something like purpose. Jace had a dream, not the kind he usually had, full of fire, war, and screaming. This one was different. In the dream, he saw a garden. Not on Earth, not on this planet either, somewhere else. Peaceful, a place that didn't exist. Solari was there, so were the children. They were laughing, smiling. The boy was chasing a small floating creature through tall, glowing flowers. The girl clapped as butterflies danced around her. Solari was standing in the light, her face clean, her eyes soft, and her hand reaching out. "Jace," she said in the dream, "come live again." He woke up sweating. The dream faded fast. But something remained, something warm, something strange. He shook it off and got out of bed. That morning, the shelter felt different. It smelled like breakfast. Real food, not protein packs or survival bars. Solari had found local roots and herbs, and turned them into something that actually tasted good. The children were laughing quietly, but still laughing. Jace watched from the doorway, unseen for a moment. Solari was kneeling, helping the boy. tie his worn shoes. The girl was brushing her tangled hair with a broken comb. They looked normal. Not like refugees. Not like lost people, like a family, but they weren't his family, were they? Later, while working on the water pump outside, Solari came to him. She didn't say anything at first. She just watched him fix the pipe. Watched him wipe sweat from his brow. Watched the muscles in his arms move. Finally she spoke. "My children like you." Jace smirked. "They're not scared of me anymore? They never were. They were scared of losing hope." He stopped, working, and looked at her. "You give them hope," she said. Jace turned away. "I'm not trying to." "I know," Solari said softly. "But sometimes that's when it matters most." That night, Jace couldn't sleep again. He kept thinking about the way Solari looked at him. Not with desire. Not with need. With trust. Real. Deep trust. And that scared him more than any weapon ever had, because he wasn't sure he deserved it. He didn't know it yet. But the alien woman who entered his life, just to survive, might be the one who would teach him how to live again. The first time Solari smiled in the sunlight, Jace almost dropped the metal panel he was carrying. It wasn't just a smile. It was like watching someone remember. They were still alive. She was hanging clothes on a line, her sleeves rolled up, her eyes half closed as the wind touched her face. Her children were chasing a robotic chicken around the yard, laughing as it beeped and tried to escape. For the first time, his lonely shelter looked like a home, but not everyone thought so. That afternoon, the patrol from the nearby outpost came by. 2 armored men on hoverbikes stopped outside the fence. Jace stepped out to meet them. "Didn't know you were collecting strays now," one said with a smirk, glancing toward Solari. The other snorted. "Thought you were smarter than that, Jace. She's just a mouth to feed." Jace's jaw tightened. "She has a name," he said coldly. "And she's doing more work than half the people in your camp." "She offer you herself yet?" the first one said, laughing. "That's what widows like her are good for, right?" Jace didn't say a word. He didn't have to. He slammed the gate shut behind them. Inside, Solari had heard it all. She didn't cry. She didn't break. Instead, she quietly picked up a bucket of water, went to the corner, and began scrubbing the floor with firm hands. The children helped, not saying a word. Jace watched them for a moment. "I don't care what they say," he told her. She looked up, her eyes calm. "I do," she said. "Because one day, your silence might start to sound like agreement." Jace nodded slowly. "Then I'll speak louder." She stared at him. And then, for the second time, she smiled. But this time, it wasn't just for the sun. It was for him. That evening, Jace saw something new. Solari took one of his old jackets too big for her and stitched the torn sleeves with thread made from local plant fibers. Then she laid it on his bed without a word. Later, when he tried to thank her, she only said, "You keep my children warm. I should do the same for you." The stars outside were bright that night. But inside his shelter, Jace felt something warmer than FIRELIGHT. The woman everyone called useless was slowly becoming the most important person in his life. Asterisk. The night sky flashed red. Sirens echoed in the distance, then silence. Jace woke with a jolt. Something was wrong. He grabbed his old rifle and stepped outside the shelter. Smoke. A patrol station in the distance was burning. A faint shimmer of a small explosion faded behind the hills. Suddenly, a pulse wave burst across the field. The shield around his shelter flared bright for a second, then flickered. Jace turned around. Solari was standing behind him. Her eyes were glowing faintly. Her hands were raised. Her body was trembling. "I activated the barrier," she whispered. "The old one. Buried beneath your floor." Jace stared. "How did you know it was there?" "My people built these shelters long ago. Before the humans came, my mate once showed me how the shield rune works. But that rune hasn't worked in years. I gave it my energy. She dropped to her knees. Jace caught her just before she hit the ground. Solari, what did you do? Her skin was cold, her pulse faint. The children cried out from inside the shelter. Jace carried her in, laid her down by the fire, and wrapped her in his jacket. You saved me, he whispered. Say Lari. Opened her eyes slightly. Not just you, she said weakly. This is our home now, right? Tears filled her eyes. But why are you crying? She asked, seeing his face. Jace didn't answer. He had faced death, pain, and fire without shedding a single tear. But this alien widow who had nothing, had nearly given everything to protect him. And now, for the first time in years, he was afraid to lose someone. It was raining. Not just outside, but inside Jace's heart too. Solari was getting better slowly. She sat near the fire wrapped in soft blankets, her cheeks a little less pale, her voice a little stronger, but something had changed, not just in her. In him. Jace stood at the doorway, watching the two children play. They had drawn a game in the dirt, something about chasing space beasts. The girl laughed loudly. The boy called out, Papa, look. Jace froze. He hadn't told them to call him that. He hadn't even realized they were doing it. Until now. Solari smiled softly from her chair. They've already chosen you, she said. Jace looked at her. But I didn't choose, she interrupted gently. You did. The moment you opened the door. That night, she came to him while the children slept. She sat beside him quietly. No words, just the soft hum of the rain outside. Then she spoke. Barely above a whisper. My children don't remember their father's voice anymore. Jace said nothing. Solari's fingers tightened around the warm mug in her hands. They remember yours now. He turned to her. What are you trying to say? She didn't look at him. I am not asking for love. I'm not asking for promises. I'm only asking one thing. She turned her eyes toward him, full of both hope and fear. Will you be their father? Jace felt his chest tighten. His old walls built from war, loss, and loneliness began to crack, not because someone asked for his strength, but because someone offered him a reason to stay strong. The sky was clear, for the first time in months. There were no storms, no sirens, no fear in the wind. Jace stood in the field outside his shelter, watching the children race across the grass. The boy wore one of Jace's old jackets, sleeves rolled up, laughter flying free. The girl held a flower she'd picked, running toward her mother. Say Lari. She stood not far behind, her hair tied back, a handmade dress fluttering in the breeze. She looked nothing like the broken widow who had knocked on his door that cold night. Now she looked like someone whole, someone home. And for the first time, Jace wasn't looking at her like a guest. He was looking at her like a wife. That morning, he had gone into town. People stared. Some still whispered. But when he walked through the market with Solari at his side, holding her hand, they all went quiet. One man smirked and asked, So, she yours now? Jace turned to him, voice calm and clear. No, he said. She's not mine. She's with me. That's different. Back at home, he found the children had made something. A crown of braided grass and tiny stones. They handed it to Solari and shouted, Queen Mama. Solari laughed and looked at Jace. He met her eyes. Then slowly, carefully, he reached into his jacket and pulled out a small metal ring. Not expensive. Not flashy, but it was his mother's. A human tradition. He knelt down, heart pounding. You once begged me to take you in, he said softly. I'm not asking anymore. He looked up. I'm offering. Solari covered her mouth in shock. The children gasped. And for the first time in their lives, their family felt complete.